Okay, hello everybody. I feel I'm sort of letting the UK side down with no dreams. Kevin's looking funny, but I did have a question, and a couple of pictures popped up just as we started it. I just wondering. I can see why you're doing it, but a lot of pictures are looking a bit biblical, and I'm just wondering whether there's a danger that people might think, oh, we have to worship the guides, because some of them look a bit flowy and like they do in the Bible. So I was just wondering about that.
Of course you do. So again, relating to the public, yeah, we purposely make some of the images like that. If you look at one of the latest images, and I could put one in here, I had Ava take these pictures of Jesus, so-called Jesus, not Jesus really. It's somebody else that was already duplicated in there. It dealt with the old Pope and stuff like that. You're not going to see any real pictures of Jesus, okay? Because none of them, they look more like Burt Reynolds or Kevin Spacey or somebody else, all right, whoever it is. So we took some of those pictures, those paintings, which are real nice, and we put Rebazar's head on there, okay, is what we did. And this is to, you might say, purposely confuse people. Okay, you can tell everybody, it's fine. Because people look at the image itself. You see, they're looking at imagery, and look at all the images that people look at. And they look at them a particular way. Now, most of the world is religious. They look at things a particular way. And a lot of the world, if not most of it, I don't know how many, several billion, maybe 3 or 4 billion, look to the Jesus idea, okay? So they replace the image. You see what the so-called Pope in that did during a certain era. They replaced that image at that time, I don't know, it was before that, with one of the sons or something like that of the Pope. I don't know the exact history. Some people do. It doesn't matter. But to get people's conscious and subconscious to market that image of a particular way to get people to agree. So over centuries or lifetimes or even decades, people all of a sudden, that's how they saw it. You see, that's how they saw Jesus. So when they went to the real side, which is the astral world, because the reptilians control physical astral, all of a sudden they see this image and they're thinking, oh, it's Jesus. And so they're very friendly and open. That's agreement. And then they're tap line. So what we do is we substitute it for pictures of Rebazar. So when they go to the real side, they're willing to have certain experiences that wake them up to where they're at. This is kind of the idea, you see? Something like that, Gwen.
Okay, that's fine. I did sort of wonder about that. I mean, I like the pictures, but somebody who hadn't really got a clue what they were about would be a bit puzzled. But that's answered my question.
Well, let me interrupt here. Okay, so again, see what you're doing? You're trying to think for others. Okay, yes, you have that consideration, but you don't have to try and think for them. So you have that consideration, but I have that consideration too with everything I put out there. But this is how I look at it, and that is that let them think what they want, let them show up, let them say what they want. I'll deal with it. And by the very fact that you do creatively, that makes the challenge and the fun part. See, that's part of my adventure. I like the confrontation. I don't care what they think. It's all okay. Everything they think is fine. I'll deal with it. You see? Go ahead.
Right, okay. Yeah, we've had a lot of, not arguments, but quite strong disagreements with my daughter. But we're saying if that's what she wants to believe, let her get on with it and we'll do our stuff. So pass you back to Kevin now because I'm run out of questions at the moment.
Oh, yes. And let me say that because you brought that up, Kevin, are you there?
Yes,
I have a daughter too. She's 35, and she's a sweetie when she was young, and now she's got her own attitudes, etc. And it's okay. I completely agree with whatever she decides. I'm presenting what I'm doing. She's deciding her life. That's it. You know, the thing is, I'm not taking on or trying to decide to change her or anything. Never. I don't do that. Actually, I play the dad, like I almost don't know anything. I just let her have the floor. You see, she's the star. Fine. You know, I'm having my adventure. I'm sharing something real and wonderful. That's all that matters. She has her life. She's made her choice. She's made her statement. I don't interfere at all or even think about her or consider it. You know, she has to decide to show up. So it's kind of like that. You don't have to carry because again, when we come into this life, we usually live along the ideas of father, son, brother, mother, child. All these are just ideas. We're all free beings of real light, and now you have the knowledge to start to recognize that, because that's what we are, and we're each on our own journey because of how we decide. It's that simple, and when you do, hey, everything's fine. Just like all the birds out there, they're not thinking about each other. Everybody's doing their thing. Everybody's flying where they want to. They're doing their lives. But humans confuse themselves with these ideas they've created, you see? And especially relationships. Boy, you know how many lifetimes relationships and emotional attachments to those ideas have brought you back here unconscious? Thousands upon thousands. How many more you want to go through? Yes, there you go, young lady. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay then. Hello everybody. Yeah, I have a series of dreams I want to recount, but I actually had a dream before I came to this Skype. I had a quick doze, and it was actually a very pleasant dream actually. I was just laying there, and I was getting into a more and more state of awareness, and I suddenly had the impression of a mountain range forming in front of me, and the mountain range was sort of growing and growing in size and grandeur. And then on the mountain, I saw, I think it was Gopal Daz. I'm not sure. It's the guy who has the big white beard. I think it's him. I might have got him wrong, so forgive me if I've got the wrong guy. But and then as I watched this mountain continue to grow, I suddenly became a part of it, and then I was the mountain, and I experienced a very delightful, expansive feeling, and I could only equate it to being in a state of just complete awareness, being as a mountain sort of thing, and possibly therefore being having the opportunity to have a viewpoint of being a mountain.
Yes, no, that's very good. So again, just like a mountain, if you saw a mountain and you're seeing the mountains grow, this is cool. So this is something familiar to you. So, you know, many people, when they see a mountain, first thing they consider is, oh, I want to climb that. I want to go up there. I want to see what it's like to be up there, right? You know, as kids, we did that, right? We saw something, we saw a building, a house, or whatever, a mound of dirt. What did we do? We went over there on our adventure and we climbed up it, you see? And so again, the mountain, yes, it represents that. It represents a bigger view. So this is where you become the view, you see? You become like the mountain. You are the bigger view. So now imagine yourself as a mountain, and you're looking down upon, like, you know, the flat plains or civilization down there. You see over all of it now, don't you? You're not just this one little viewpoint in the crowd, you see? And it's just like, you know, being on top of a tall building, and you look down and you know, you're 10 stories up and you look down at the ground, you see the cars moving, etc. You know, it's like when you're in an airplane, the view you have this big view, all right? And you know, you don't equate it to anything, but you just thinking like, oh, I'm way up here. I see this. Okay, see, it's about seeing, and that's your real awareness. Your real awareness is seeing something else. So when you see that, let's say you're in an airplane looking down, okay, how do you relate to not specifically what you're seeing, but now you have this position of seeing something else that you don't usually see, more so than just what you're seeing. That sounds confusing, doesn't it? But this is where you subtly separate that view, the real you, from the situations in creation. But you do it right where you're at. So again, it's all about a view, isn't it? Go ahead. And I would say that was probably Phoebe Kwan's.
Oh yes, that might have been the one. Yes, yes, it was very nice. I mean, being completely immersed in the mountain and absolutely letting go of my personal self was probably one of the most delightful feeling I've had in a long time, to be honest. And in a way, at the time, I thought, I'd actually rather be a mountain than a person. But there we go.
Well,
Yes.
you don't have to take baths or you don't have to pay rent when you're a mountain, do you?
No, exactly. It was most refreshing. Very liberating. Yes. Okay. Well, during the week, I had one night. I had a series of dreams. They were all very random. They were all about, I don't know, relationships, various situations. They all seemed very familiar along the lines of memories, but they were nothing that I'd actually experienced in this life. Then I emerged from my sleep and I remained in a state between wakefulness and sleep, and then I began to build up tremendous energy within my physical vehicle, and then still in the state between sleep and wakefulness, I was aware suddenly I was no longer in my room, but another room. I lay there in this alternative room and was able to access memories of the body vehicle I now seem to be in. It was a whole new set of memories of a different alternative life, and among them were the events and the relationships that had seemed familiar in my initial dreams. I was younger here too, maybe in my early 20s, and I seemed I was still at college or school or something, and the parents I have here on this life level were still there, and my sister, and living in the same house, although there were slight variations in their appearances. Also, in this alternative world or dimension, I seemed to be hosting some kind of radio show with my sister, and it was like an alternative news orientated show, and the contents of which suggested the same situations or similar existed there that exist here, except maybe even more so, as in that place, the world was on the verge of financial collapse, and so the controlled collapse and degradation of the world was a little more advanced and had moved further along. Then I considered if I was actually going to be able to get back to my dimension here, as I lay there half awake and asleep with all my new memories, and seemingly and apparently in an alternative dimension, that it would seem that my awareness, the real me, had decided to explore. And I didn't fully awake throughout this entire experience, and I wonder what may have happened if I had opened my eyes while I was there. I wonder if I would have actually woken up in a completely different dimension, maybe even be stuck there. But when I started entertaining these thoughts, I popped back into my usual room as I had these thoughts. Now I'm thinking to myself, maybe if I ever do that again, I will wake up my eyes and see if I do stay there, perhaps.
Well, there you go. It's self-explanatory. It's another Twilight Zone episode, isn't it, young man? And so, again, yes, all of us have this, and they are just simply various rooms. And again, you see that you've repeated these experiences similar many times before. And so, yes, you can. People do, you might say, get trapped or they are stuck in these situations, these dimensions, just like you've seen in movies. All of a sudden, the time travel thing or whatever, you can say it's time travel. It's all here and now. There's really no such thing as time travel. Everything is simply here and now in the consideration of it, and things appear to be whatever. And all of a sudden you mentioned a economic collapse or whatever. Again, the world is a controlled situation, isn't it? So, and what are really economic collapses? somebody, the economy is created, then at some point it collapses. Is that control or what? Of course, just like everything that's going on today. So we're in controlled situations. So we're waking up from that. So again, and you have a comparison there also, and that is that the bigger view is that you're seeing that you've done this before, haven't you? And again, so what are you going to do? You might say, just the question is, what are you going to do with your life this time as opposed to what you did before, what you didn't do before? But now you have the opportunity to wake up even more. So again, all these experiences, the idea of what the new presentation is that providing the opportunity for people to wake up and recognize the real universe is more so than creation. So again, you always have the choice, don't you? And yeah, I'm sure that there's many people that have gotten stuck in their past because they're so attached and in love with what they went through before or who they were, that they desire to be there again. And so, but you made the decision. There's a real part of yourself that wanted that experience, and I would say it's a very good comparison. Again, which I mentioned earlier, that you've done this many times, and so this in itself, you decide if it motivates you to more focus on being now. I never really was interested in the past. I use the past as a reference, not as a reality. But everybody decides. Most people hang on to their past. I like nowness, because the whole of life is now. Okay, and when we look at past, present, or future, even present, it's something in creation, has nothing to do with that. So again, I see from, and there are endless views, young man, and you decide. I see it as a comparison for yourself also, because it's a similar experience, and it becomes so real that in a way it can almost kind of scare you. It's like, well, gee, what if I got stuck there? And would I be aware as I am here? Something like that, you see? Those comparisons also help you, more so become aware of what is taking place in your real awareness, because this is your journey. So that's an idea, Kevin. Go ahead.
Yes, it was a very interesting experience, because when I was in the state of between wakefulness and sleep, and I was seemingly in this alternative reality, at that point I was still being like an objective real view sort of thing, and so I was not completely immersed in that body vehicle. But I imagine, as you were suggesting, that if I did stay there, it's very likely that I would become more immersed and bogged down and into the filters of the lower bodies, and it's very likely that my awareness could be compromised. Yes.